Good morning, everybody. 8:10 a.m. August 25th. Welcome to my channel. Hope everybody had a good weekend. Wild day on Friday. Wild day. All it took was that transcript from Powell's speech and sent the markets, well, the S&P 500 to all-time highs, not the QQQ. That's really the story here. So basically, you got like this high off of these cuts that's supposedly going to come, right? And we reached all-time highs. Now in the SPX you didn't, but in the SPY you did. Okay, that was a just crazy amount of short covering. I mean, that was a monster move. I was waiting for a pullback and got it, but it didn't really set up, and then I was done for the day. Um, Looked at a lot of stuff this weekend with sectors, with certain things that move markets and stuff like that, and it's just a weird setup because S&P 500 made all-time highs, and QQQ is not by the all-time highs. Remember, the technology sector is 34% of the market cap weight in the S&P 500, and we're at all-time highs, right? So you don't have the number one thing that drives our market with the market. So I'm very suspect of this move. Okay, that's number one. We are pulling back a little bit this morning. Okay, I'm very suspect of this move. And if you look at some history too, whenever the Fed starts cutting rates, right? Generally, that means you get an initial push off of cuts. But generally, that means there's something wrong in our economy. We could possibly be in a recession. And again, I don't predict anything. I'm just saying, if you're worried about the labor market, if you're worried about our economy, if you're worried about tariffs, you're going to start cutting. There's something going on, maybe, right? And then you look at the yield curve. We were inverted for a long time, and I think we're playing with the uninversion. And usually when you uninvert and the Fed starts cutting rates, that's when we start to have some type of correction coming. Okay? That's generally what happens. So the initial push off of the rate cuts is a nice little rush for the markets. Okay? You got a little boost off cuts. Okay? You got a little boost off cuts. So that's what's going on in our market. Okay? I'm going to trade accordingly. But right now, I'm suspect of this move. Okay? I'm very suspect of it. I mean, what did I look at this week? I think Staples made all-time highs. Financials, I believe industrials claim close. The Dow, but not the QQQ. All right, we'll get into that in a little bit. All right. So we got NVDA earnings this week. That is on Wednesday after the market closed. Now this week I'm on vacation starting Wednesday, so I'm only going to be with you guys Monday and Tuesday. But obviously, NVIDIA earnings is a pretty big thing in the markets. That's a pretty big thing in the markets, okay? We have core PCE too this week on Friday. That's probably the two big things. Okay, that's the two big things. Then we go what into Labor Day. Okay, and we come back for Tuesday. That's what's going on. All right. Now this morning, like I said, we're pulling back a little bit. So it's Monday, still the summer. All right. All right. Why don't we just get into this now? Welcome to my channel. My name is Steven Gonzalez. I use market profile and volume profile to find structure in the markets, along with supply and demand, gamma exposure levels, the most traded price of the year, the month, the week, and the previous day. That is my edge. That is my edge. Okay. And I also use Anchor View Ops, my trusty market internals. It lets me know what's going on under the hood. And my weekly expected move indicator. All right, now weekly expected move indicator. I ran the numbers. I ran my script. And feel free to join my Discord and get the free indicator. Okay? Now, hopefully you join me every day. I give you the market story, the market news, the economic calendar, a bunch of technical analysis, long and short trade scenarios towards the end of the stream. Let me be your cup of coffee, tea, or water in the mornings, or your podcast, right? To get what's going on in the markets. You will hear anything you need to know about the markets. And of course, ask a question anytime you have one. Anytime you have one, okay? Now, if you want to get in depth in the markets, meaning intraday moves, why we're doing what we're doing, right? Why is the market moving like that? Why aren't we doing this, right? Well, you can join my Discord, okay? That is Confluence Trading, all right? Go to my YouTube homepage, click on the link and sign up, all right? Come over here, go into live market updates. You can see I leave audio messages, videos, exactly what I'm seeing, okay, in the markets. Enough people have interest, usually I go live and have a community, and you can see live what I'm looking at. All right, so don't be shy. Come in, join the community. You got nothing to lose, and you get the free indicator. Slap it on your Thinkorswim. Remember, if you go here to my Discord, go to the weekly expected move channel, right? I just posted it here. You can put it on your phone. You can put it on your charts. You got no excuse. Okay? It's free. It's free. So, with that being said, let's get right into futures, okay? Let's see what's moving markets. Now, we do have a VIX that's up 6.40%. Okay, we're at 15 VIX. 15.1. Crude is up 0.68. 10-year yield's up 0.49. Dollar's up 0.21. Gold down 0.14. Dow is down 0.30. ES down 0.32. 30-year bonds being sold down 0.33. Russell down 0.38. Nasdaq's down 0.43. Silver's down 0.88. Bitcoin's down 4.74%. Ethereum is down almost 5%. I saw some things about monetized tokens that they something like that. We're looking into it later. Not sure if that's why crypto is falling or Bitcoin's falling. Okay, moving on. Mag 7 Plus. Who's leading the pack? There's no leaders here. Okay, it's just all flat. And then we get into let's go to the over 50 percenters. That's Tesla down 0.52, Apple down 0.60, Amazon down 0.73, AMD down 0.79, Coinbase, the Bitcoin proxy, down 2.63. All right, in the top sectors, there's really nothing to talk about there. All right, nothing to talk about there. If we go into a little bit of granular, let's see if there's anything that's moving markets. Tilray up 6.96, Alibaba up 3.38. All right, let's see what lagging in the granular scheme here. I believe that's Wayfair down 8.98%, Williams Sonoma down 4.58, Bitcoin's ETF down 4.51, MicroStrategy. This is a bunch of Bitcoin crypto related stuff. MicroStrategy down 4.44. Yeah, a bunch of Bitcoin related stuff. So that's what's going on there. Now we go right into sectors. Okay. Is there a leader? Not really. Energy's only up 0.01. And then we have our laggards here. Financials down 0.15. Utilities down 0.26. Technology down 0.34. And your, this is switching back and forth. So that's your Tesla, your Amazon, your discretionary, and your technology. That's your Apple, Microsoft, NVDA down 0.35. All right. That's what we have going on there. All right. Now, let's move on to the economic calendar. All right. So today we have Chicago Fed at 8:30, new home sales at 10. So new home sales generally doesn't move the markets, Okay, if I'm going to trade at 945 or 950, I'm not going to. I'll tighten up my stop, but I'm not going to get out of it. New home sales, but if it's close to my entry, yeah, I will. So, and then the this week we have Fed Barkin speaking on Wednesday, but that's the day. August 27th is the day NVDA reports after the close. Then you have Fed Waller speaking, but that's 6 p.m. Friday, you have core PCE. So core PCE and Michigan consumer sentiment at 10, and Chicago PMI 945. So Friday, you got some fireworks there, right? Going into Labor Day. Going into Labor Day. Labor Day weekend. All right, that's what you got going on there. Now, as far as the juice, do we have Trump today? Let's see. August 25th, Trump signs executive orders at 10 a.m. Great. Great. So he's going to be possibly talking, maybe not doing much. Trump greets South Korean president at 12, and then Fed Logan speaking at 3:15. All right. I don't see much moving the markets here in the juice, so we'll just move on. Let's move on to some. Let's see if there's more stock related. I saw some little stuff, but let's see if there's any more. I think it's the same. It says Keurig Dr. Pepper Inc. fell 3.4 after announcing a deal to buy JDE Peet's for 15.7 billion, 18.4 billion US. The overhaul will separate the coffee business from the KDP's other beverage operations. And what else here? Crypto link stocks. Here we go. Traded lower as Bitcoin dropped 3% to 111,500. Shares of Strategy Incorporated MicroStrategy slid 4.4 while Coinbase declined 2.7. Let's see. Furniture stocks fell in pre-market trade after Donald Trump said a major tariff investigation on furniture coming to the United States is underway. I forget what RH is. I have it on the tip of my tongue. RH. Restoration Hardware, I believe that's it. Fell 6.5 while Williams-Sonoma dropped 5%. So that's why Williams-Sonoma was down. All right, moving on to some more news. Okay, we talked about the Keurig Dr. Pepper. Here we go. Stock exchanges urge regulators to crack down on tokenized stocks. Okay, let's see what else here. There's nothing major here. Nope. All right. If there's any upgrades or downgrades, let's just see. I'm not really feeling this site lately. Let's see. This is 825. Okay, so we have Alaska Air Group got an upgrade. That's it here. Downgrades. Let's see. They've been really bad with downgrades lately. All right. Now, besides that, we're going to get into a breadth chart. Check this out, folks. 78% of stocks in the S&P 500 are now over their 20-day simple moving average. We're getting up into extremes again. Once you get into the 80s, the 90s, you generally get a dip in the market. So this is like another little red flag. All right. For me to go, okay. Let's price in these cuts. Let's get a little rush. Let's give the market some juice. Okay. So that's what we're looking at. All right. Now, let's move over to just some market internals here. Just to see these beastly market internals. They were a monster, a beast. Okay, let's do a little recap. There's not much to recap, but just to show you, these numbers were more beastly as the market was. This was a 16. This is 10.82 to 1, meaning there's 10 to 1. 10, this is called 11 to 1. 11 to 1 of volume going into up stocks versus down stocks. That's the NYSE exchange. It was a 6 to 1, almost 7 to 1, and that was at 16 in the NYSE at one point that day. That is just all out, all market moving up. That's what that is. And that's just beastly. These internals were never negative. All they did was grow and stay that strong. So once that was that strong, I'm like, I gotta buy a pullback. And it came, but there was like no setup for my style. And after that, I just closed up shop and said, all right, well, I don't think we're going much higher here. We made all-time highs in the SPY, so, and we didn't. We just died because we made such a monster move. Okay, now we can get right into daily charts, and we'll get right into what I'm just noticing about the markets. Okay, let's go to those dailies. Now, let's look at this together. Now notice there's been this channel that the SPY has been in. Okay, you can see it right here. All right, now what did the SPY do? It made all-time highs. Right, we were down here, down to the previous week's lows. We held that, as I mentioned. On Thursday, I said, look, SPY's holding the previous week's lows before this speech. And we went all the way up, eliminated all these sellers, and went right to the previous week's highs. We closed not at all-time highs, but that's a pretty beastly candle. Okay, where are we now? 643.40. 643.40. We are right here in that day. So we're the upper third, but we are pulling back. We are pulling back. Okay, so that is your SPY. And now we're going to look at the futures. Give us a little view of what's going on in the futures market. Now, in futures, you did not make a new all-time high. This is where you stopped, right there. Now, this is the new week. This is last week's highs and lows, right? We're underneath last week's highs. We're down here. We're currently a little below the previous month's highs. Remember what I said? I'm not really as trusting of this move. Okay? We just have to see. We'll look at the Qs, and this is important. Okay? In the Qs, there's an uptrend right here, right? And you have a downtrend. The downtrend really is held in check here. Came up to it, hit it, closed below it. Notice we are not by all-time highs. Remember what I said. The QQQ, right, largely tech. Now, XLK sector represents that sector pretty good. Okay, it's not all of it, but it's 34% of the market cap weight in the S&P 500. So, if the QQQ is not able to start just breaking this trend and start ripping back up, the S&P 500 is going to have a really hard time continuing higher. Picture this as like a drag or an anchor on the markets. Okay. Now, I could show you in futures, but I'm going to show you here. Just to show you this, okay? Let's just put a fib from the all-time highs to this swing low now. Look where the QQQ went. We went all the way up to this 60.1.8 Fibonacci. That is usually your last line of defense in Fibonacci retracement. That's why it's the last number I have. Usually when you go over 61.8, close above it, you start to retrace to 100%. Guess what? It had resistance there. Right? Now, here's the 50% line. That was around, I can't see that number, 571s. Okay? So right at the 61.8, that is nuts that it's right there to the tick. Right there around 573, 574, let's just call it. That's all she wrote. Close back below it, right? Now, this is relatively weak. If you want to see now where that is now in our market, we are at 569.80s. 569.80 is right here. So we're almost back to the midpoint of that day. We're kind of on the edge of the upper third of that session. Okay, 20-day simple moving average, whatever, right? And you can also just look at moving averages, right? There's your 9 EMA daily flattening out. There's your 20-day flattening out. So we're just like in the middle of nowhere in the Qs. Okay, the market's not going to go all out assault up if the Qs doesn't get step in line. And there's been a rotation, added tech into other sectors. Remember, we're still in August, and September are generally a bearish month. Okay, just keep that in mind. Now look at the NASDAQ futures. Okay, NASDAQ futures, you got the 20-day flat, the 9 EMA flatten out, right? This is where we're at. This is last week's highs, last week's lows, right? Big range from last week. We are in the middle of last week's range, okay, right now. So you can see this is what we did, and now this is where the market is. It's pulling back. Okay, like I said, markets can't go higher with tech being relatively weak. It's just not going to work. All right, and I don't know what's going to happen, but it's like it just feels like it's on weak legs. This move higher. Okay. Alrighty. Now, moving on. Like I said, triple-headed monster hasn't shown that much. Okay, that's why I haven't been talking about it that much, because the dollar, let's just look at it. It's gone nowhere. The bond market usually goes nowhere either, see? It's just not worth talking about it. All right, so we're going to move on to hourly chart analysis, and I got some key levels to show you guys. Got some key levels. All right, let's go to the hourly charts. And let's talk about it. Let me just get my trusty marker out. Not sure if Rosita's here on Monday morning. Let's see. Let's get into some analysis here, and this will be very easy and quick. Okay, now we have a lot to talk about, right? So here's the big move. I put an anchor VWAP now on that big move. That white line represents the buyers on Powell's speech. We are underneath that currently. So the average buyer from that is underwater right now. All right, take that in. In the ES, the average buyer from this move is underwater. Good morning, Chief. Okay, that's how I use anchor VWAPs. All right, I'm going to anchor it to when everybody bought. Now it's going to show me the average buyer is right here. It's underwater. Okay, so that's a key point, right? Now, our new most traded price of the week is here, 64.68. We are underneath the new most traded price of the week. Okay, you can see all the frothiness of Friday. In the overnights, tried to push higher, failed, and bunch of selling has been ensuing. Okay, so this becomes a very major level. We can round it off to 64.70s. Can this market accept value back above this level? Now, I know Chief Rosita loves this, and it's plain as you can see here. So in this move, right, this is all emotional buying. Right up there. I have single prints, okay? Single prints all in here. And when you have those single prints and you have this price action, you have what I like to call an elephant on a toothpick. That is not the elephant. This is. I'll show you that in a second. That's my trading Discord, Confluence Trading. But there's Alfie, the elephant on a toothpick. All right. Now, why I say that is because this price action doesn't have much structure to it. Look at the volume here. It's a gap. It's a vacuum here. Okay. And what I'm saying is this toothpick's going to try to hold up this elephant. And you have to look at this two ways. This is all single prints, this box here. Okay, this box represents the single prints. That's one-way trading. That's emotional buying. Okay, if the market gets super weak and spooked and goes, you know what, I don't trust this, we start selling off and it's weak, we're just going to rip through all of that structure because it's poor. A toothpick should not hold up an elephant. Okay, now there is a flip side to what I am saying. You have to look at it both ways. If we come into the single prints and we hold them like that, that is bullish. That is a bullish sign. Okay, that's how you look at it. But if the momentum and people start taking profits, this thing is going to be cut like a hot knife through butter. Okay, most traded price of the month is still the 64.13s, right there. I would suspect if we did take all that out, we were going to go back there. Right? That's what I'm seeing there. Now, if we're going to look at the NASDAQ, let's bring that up. We also have single prints in our NASDAQ. And you can also see, I put a Fibonacci. So let's look at this. Okay? So I did a Fibonacci from all-time highs down to this little low here. And you'll notice, just like in the Qs that I showed you, there's your 61.8 right here. It never reached it in futures. Okay, here's your 50% retracement. It's right here. Price is here. So we have not been able to retrace 50% of this move and hold it. Okay, so that's going to stay on my charts. Right now, what's the important levels here? Well, we have the 235s in the NASDAQ. That is your most traded price of the rolling month. Guess what? Price is right here underneath it. Over 235, maybe we make a run. Under 235, guess what's there? You have single prints. This is your single prints. Okay, this is your elephant. This is your toothpick. I'm going to mention my boy again. There's Elfie, elephant on a toothpick. Have the same setup and the same structure. If the NASDAQ all of a sudden gets weak, we are going to return. Where are we going to return? To probably this high volume node of 232s, the most traded price of the week. Now, this is very interesting as well. This is the all-time high. I have an anchored VWAP representing sellers on this move. So guess what? Sellers are still in control. Okay. I have an anchor VWAP also from Powell's speech. We are underneath that. One more layer on top of that. The anchor VWAP for the month is right there. So in August, right now, the month-to-date anchored VWAP for August is like flat right there, and the price is a little under it. Sellers are still in control by a hair. So isn't that crazy? After all this stuff, the QQQ, the NASDAQ futures are still, sellers are in control. You didn't make all-time highs like the S&P 500. So that's where we are, folks, with the hourlies. Okay? Hopefully, those are some very key levels. You should have wrote those down. Okay? Now, moving on. We're going to analyze this a little more in detail here. Let's do it. We're going to go to the ES futures. And you're going to see the single prints, the elephant, all that stuff. Just reiterate it. Okay? Just more technical here. Okay? Let's get into the market profile, volume profile analysis. Okay, so same thing that I just showed you before. It's just on a different chart. Here's our volume profile. We have a distribution here from Friday in the overnights, right? Then we have that pocket of volume. That's the single prints. And then we have a distribution down here. And like I said, it's all up. Can the markets hold on to the single prints, right? Can they stay up there and take back 64, 68s? I don't know. I don't know. Okay. Now, first order of business here, what we got to mark off our 50% retracement of Friday's session. That is 64.49 right there. Right in the middle of those single prints. Okay. What else do we know? We just talked about this level, the 64.68s, and the start of the singles. All right, so we mark this off. It's also value area low from Friday. Value area represents 70% of the trading on Friday. Okay, this encompasses overnight lows, value area low from Friday, and the most traded price of the week, 64.68s. 64.68s. Okay, we do have a confluence high up here. You have Friday's highs with the overnight highs, last week's highs, and the previous week's highs, and the supply zone. Okay. 64.80 is a little high volume node here, composite high volume node, right there. Now, how this looks right now, you have a lot of overhead supply there. Okay, that is going to be not easy to just start ripping back up. It's just not going to be easy. Okay, people who get up today are going to be like, oh man, I went long on Friday because of these cuts. Well, we're almost retraced this 50%. Think about that psychologically. If somebody got FOMO and like people went long, hey, I'm long now. We're getting cuts. We're ripping to all-time highs. We're going to just keep going. Well, you're not going to like this market where it's at right now. Okay? So, these are our levels. Okay? Let's open this up and see the price action. Now, you do have one thing in the feather of a cap of a bull. We pretty much are 100% net short overnight, and we're at the lows. That usually calls out for some type of correction. Okay? Do I know if that happens? No, I don't. Okay, so being that we're below 64.68, the most traded price of the week, okay, I'm going to start actually with a bearish case. And let's just start up these internals here. The scenarios. The ES, long and short trade scenarios here. So let's start out with a bear case. Okay, let's start out with the bear case. So we know 64.68 is important. Okay, so what would I like to see? Well, you can give me that little correction that I said because the overnight inventory is 100% net short. Give me that right into supply right here, right into the overnight most traded price, around the 64.73s. Okay. Let me see you try to make a point, try to get over those 64.68s. If this gets rejected and we retest this level, that is going to be a nice short. And the market just continues to get weak. Why? We're going to come down here to that 50% retracement to 64.49.50s. And who's going to be rearing its head? The elephant on the toothpick. We're right into single prints. If you get really big momentum, really profit taking happening, people get nervous, we're going to rip through these single prints. The end of the single prints are around 64.28s. You're going to go back to the most traded price of the month. And that price is 64.14. Okay? That will be the end of these cuts being great. Okay? Now, do I know if that happens? No, I don't know if that happens. But I like it. I like it a lot. Okay? I like it a lot. There's not structure here. It was just a boom. So, if you got to think about that, let me just make sure you understand that. There is no structure in here. So, let's say generally, right? If there's this kind of movement and then you do this, and then there's this kind of movement and then you do this kind of movement and then you do this, right? There's places for people to place stops. Well, if you just do this, there's no there's no really places, so that's why it's just gonna go like zoom. Okay, it's not poor. It has poor structure. Basically, what I'm trying to tell you. Now, it gets a little funky. All right, with more of a short up in here. Once you accept value over 64.68 for a now acceptance is time, right? You got to spend time above that level. You do got a lot of supply here. I don't think this will be easy. So I think this is my best bet. Even if we hit this 64.80 and fail, I'm looking to fail, have a failure, roll over, and take advantage of those single prints. Honestly, can we go up here and you get a short? Maybe, but the market's probably not weak when you're up there. Okay, so I'm gonna kill it there. All right, longs. Oops, can I undo that? I can't. I don't think. That's all right. I'll just take it. Put it another level here. That was just the 64.80s. Okay. Now we're gonna talk about longs. 64.68 is the low. All right. Now, what did I say before? Single prints should get cut through. If they don't, this is what could happen. So let's say the market comes down and rips into this 50% retracement, 64.49. But that's the stick in the ground. And it does this, this, this. That's bullish. It has to break the 64.68s, but if I'm down here and I'm long here or something, I'm happy to take it off there. This is just gravy if it comes back in here and it can start working its way up to last week's highs. Remember, support in single prints is bullish because it should not be supportive. Okay. Now, of course, we can open up and rip above, take out some of these supply zones, retest the 64.68s, and you also can try to make a move up. Okay? That's really all I'm interested in for the longs. Moving on to the NASDAQ. Okay, here's our NASDAQ. All right. NASDAQ's almost 100% net short, playing around with that big 235 level, right? You do have poor structure down at the lows. Okay, you do have poor structure. So we know 235s is an important level. Oh, hold on. We know 235s is a very important level. You also got the anchor VWAP for the month right there. We're playing with it now, as I showed you before. We know 23428 is your 50% Fibonacci. Okay, right there. We also have our single prints. This whole area, that's your elephant on the toothpick. Elephant on the toothpick. Okay. Like I said, this is the relatively weak indice. Okay. What else do we have here? Well, we have a nice supply zone here at the overnight highs. We have more supply here. It has a lot of work to do. Okay, this has a lot of work to do. Just a lot. Okay, now I'm gonna make this level better here because I gotta make let's make this level better. So what I'm gonna do here is encompass the overnight lows with this 235s. What does that also encompass? Value area low from Friday. Value area low is 70% of the trading on Friday. You lose that, it's just not good. Okay? You lose that, it's just not good. All right? That's it for that. Now, we're going to get right into scenarios. Let me just open up this session. And you can see the poor structure to the bottom here. I expect a wick to be put in here. Well, let's see if that happens in the overnight, or we'll see what happens in the real-time trading hours. Okay? So let's get into scenarios here. All right, we're going to start off the same thing with the bearish side. So prices here, we know 235s is important. We know the month-to-date anchor VWAP is important. We know value area low from Friday is important. And you have the overnight lows. So what do I want to see from the markets? Well, give me some type of correction into this supply, right? Fail, retest the 235s to then go and break through these single prints. End of the single prints around 23348. That's your previous highs here. I would expect maybe a little bounce there, but if you really get cooking, you can go down to the 232s. Your most traded price of the week. Okay. Same type of scenario as the ES. And of course, the elephant on the toothpick can show up. That's probably all I'm interested in for that short. Okay, I got to play off that big level in single prints. Now, moving on to your longs. Same thing. You're going to see the same stuff, okay? So, number one, let's just say the market rips up, holds this, and really finds acceptance above it. Well, eventually we're going to start to melt up. Do we test Friday's highs? I don't know. If there is a bear trap here, meaning we push down into the 50% Fibonacci of Friday's session. Remember, if single prints become supportive, that is bullish. You could go long in the Nasdaq, even target 235 if you got long here, and see if you get the gravy on top, which would be a hold of that level to move higher. Okay. Below the 50% line, can we get support in here? Yes, but the probabilities are not good. If you're down here, the market is probably weak. Okay? That's all I'm looking at, folks. I'm not going to give you scenarios. I can give you more, but I want to give you what I want to see. Because there's other stuff that I could be like, well, if we come down, I mean, that doesn't matter though. I want to give you the trades that I'm going to probably be interested in. Okay, so that's scenarios. Okay, hopefully you enjoyed that analysis and you smash that like button for me. That would be much appreciated. Okay, smash the like button. And as always, please join me every morning. Give you the market story, the market news, the economic calendar, the leaders and the laggards, a bunch of technical analysis. Okay, bunch of technical analysis. And I just gave you long and short trade scenarios in the ES and the Nasdaq futures. I think that's pretty good, right? Golden nuggets all the time. That's what I provide. If you want in-depth analysis and you want minute-to-minute market commentary, right? I think anybody would want that, right? You're going to join my Discord, Confluence Trading. Okay? Sign up. Go to my YouTube homepage. Sign up. Click on the link. Sign up. You got nothing to lose. Just come in there, ask me questions. I will give live commentary. If I'm not live, I'm going to give live commentary, videos, audio messages in the community. Also, take advantage of the free indicator that I have in my Discord, the weekly expected move. The weekly expected move. Go to my Discord, go to the weekly expected move. Put this indicator on your Thinkorswim or your mobile phone app of Thinkorswim. Okay, I already showed this last week, but there you go. That was last week's expected move to the downside in the Qs, and we all know what happened. It never closed below that level. Okay, we all know that. I've notified everybody all week. Hey, look, I'm saying just to let everybody know, all these stocks have went past their expected move. Well, guess what we did? We went higher, a lot higher, right? So again, the expected move wins the day. Throw it on your charts. It's an edge that I'm giving you for free. It's just an edge to know if a stock's overdone to the upside or the downside. 70% of the time, the stock will close inside that expected range. It is a game changer. It just lets you not be too greedy and then have a plan the other way. Now, last week I did put a broken wing butterfly on Meta. It was working fine. However, when I rethought everything, I said, you know what? I'm up right now in this position, but I don't know what Powell's going to say tomorrow. And I said there is risk in that trade to the downside. Okay. Now, I decided to take it off on Thursday. Played some defense. I'm like, why would I just want to just see what happens? Okay. That's why I took it off. Now, if I kept it on, I would have pocketed the $50. It went up, right? It would have gave me the $50 that I got paid to put it on. I still made profit on it. It's nothing to. It doesn't even matter. It might as well have been break even. Okay, but I will do more of that if you guys are interested to show you some of those types of trades that you can do with the expected move. Okay, just a little information about myself. I've done options trading, probably advanced, for about 5 to 6 years, which I don't talk about a lot here. Okay, because it's mainly about futures trading and stuff like that, and SPY and QQQ. But that is part of what I do as well. So if anybody's interested in those types of stuff, I'll go over some of those things. I understand they're very advanced. They're not like the norm, buy calls, buy puts. They're not just that. There's a lot more to options than that. Okay. So without me chatting about that, everybody have a great day. Okay. Remember, no trade's a trade. It's Monday. We just had a huge run up in the markets. Today might be a day of rest. Today might be a day where we range. I don't know. Okay, I'm going to be sitting there, though, planning out trades as soon as the market opens. All right, so come join me in the Discord. If not, I'll see you guys tomorrow.